Our sector, written by N.K. Jemisin and art by Jamal Campbell, centers around Lantern Mulun as she investigates a series of murders that has to do with three different alien races in a city called the City Enduring. Before we go any further, I just want to point out that my pronunciation throughout this book is gonna be nothing but poop, and I wanted to put it out there because there are a lot of names and terms in here I'm not even gonna go into twice. And bear with me if I pronounce it wrong or the pronunciation of the entire phrase is just a little off. Anyway, let's get back to the book. This won't be the first time you'll be hearing names that don't actually make sense throughout this book. As far as I know, Lantern Mulan seems to be a new character and doesn't seem to have any connections to the other lanterns from Earth. In my opinion, this makes her a lot more interesting since you don't need to start wondering if she's related to Jon Stewart or Simon Baz in any way. In the City Enduring, this is a big deal because this has been the first murder in 500-ish years, and you can see this in the book as the citizens are in complete loss of what to do because none of them should be capable of murder if their emotions are being limited. When she gets to the full trilogy council, basically the planet's version of the United Nations, we are given an introduction to these three races. The first are the Na, a biological race that looks like a crossbreed between a human and a flying fish. This race has wing fins on their back along with venomous spines. The majority of this city's police force, or more accurately called the Peacekeepers, are made up of this species. Their representative is called Marth of the Sea by the Wavering Dark until the sun falls. For the record, this is his full name. Then there are the At-At, a race that we aren't given much information on, but they seem to be sentient artificial intelligence that can somehow reproduce, and they are also the creators of the emotion exploit, a device that seems to be responsible for the emotional limitations of these races. But the limitations seem to be inconsistent, as at times we see them express anger, fear, and disgust to the fullest, but hopefully this is explained later in the story. Their representative is called at Blaze of Glory, which sounds like an Instagram handle. And finally, we have the Kertopoli, a biological sentient plant race, something would feel at home right here, but their appearance is a bit jarring, as you would notice that this race is always seen with clothes covering their mouths, and this is because the appearance is similar to those of the Venus flytrap plant, a carnivorous plant on Earth. Their mouth seems to extend to their chest region, which would make sense why they dress this way, to not scare the other races probably. Their representative is Avrop Thorn of the Dry Season Thorns. He's basically a walking rosebush Venus flytrap. During the meeting, we find out a few things about this murder. The victim is a Na called Stephen of the Glacier by the Wavering Dark from the Ship clan, and Marv makes a comment saying partial, which I'm guessing his death isn't seen as a big deal to him or his race. The second and most important bit of information we're given, pun not intended, is that the victim seems to have been eaten or chomped on. The suspect is a Kertopoli because the bite marks found on him match those on their database of past conflicts with the Kertopoli dating hundreds of years ago. Avra points out that when they tend to eat, they always finish the meal. After saying that, there was an awkward silence in the room. But Mullen points out that it's not the who or the how, but the why that matters. She also points out the fact that the council requested a Green Lantern for the sector before the murder even happened, suggesting that the council might have seen this coming but didn't say anything. And then she throws the question of how can they prevent the next one. For the record, this setting is already giving me some Psycho-Pass vibes. The first season of the movie was awesome, and if you haven't watched that anime yet, I suggest you go do it right now. Maybe not right now, after the video. Anyway, back to the book. Yeah, we're given an explanation to the current state of the civilization as to to why there are two destroyed planets near this one. It turns out that in the past, a fourth race visited them and started a war by feeding each race wrong information about the other two, and starting a war that nearly wiped out all three races. This fourth force is never named, but this fourth race is never named, but I have a feeling they will be mentioned down the line. They tried to track down the emotion exploit of the supposed killer but failed. This makes the peace captain Sizd, I get a feeling I pronounced that wrong, lash out on at Blaze of Glory because her race are basically search engines, quote by the peace captain, because if they created it, then it's possible they could be able to disable it remotely without being traced. These accusations makes Blaze of Glory so angry she nearly calls the peace captain meat salad, which is implied that it's a racist term or kind of racist insult. And this is noticed by the captain's reactions because she's drawn as she feels like she's been belittled or being called some kind of mindless animal. Mullen decides she's going to question the suspect that the peacekeepers apprehended. As she heads out, we're given a glimpse to when she was handed a ring, and the ring is not a typical one, behaving in a symbiotic fashion as she picks it up, while she imagines grabbing the planet Sun with her hands. She's interrupted by Marth. He says he has something important to tell her that will help her investigation, but in private, telling her he'll send her his address in a later date. As she arrives at the precinct, she's given a holographic ID badge and she's escorted by Duel of the Sea by the turning. Okay, I'm sick of this. On their way to the suspect's cell, Duel points out a fun fact about the Ketupli. After Ketupli eats too much, they enter a dormancy state, or food coma if you prefer. They arrive at the cell, turn on the lights, and the suspect has entered a permanent dormancy state, aka dead. We see the blur of what seems to be her assailant, and he or she seems to be a really fast one. I'm having my suspicions that this isn't the work of an individual, but a group, and they might have moles or double agents in key places like the Peacekeeper's precinct. How else could the assassin get in without being noticed? But it's a little obvious that the killer of this first murder is a Ketupli. That's just too easy, and I think the murder was carried out that way to throw the investigators off of their scent. My best guess to the ones behind this is the unnamed fourth race. Maybe they're back to finish what they started, and it seems some of the Na agree with them, but and I can only speculate why at this point. I have a couple of speculations of my own about this fourth race. My first one could be that they're Koluan, Brainiac's race, or they could be Thanagarian, Hawkman's race. Both races are very advanced in science and warfare. But this is just my theory on the matter, and I don't really expect anyone or anything to be taken seriously about it. But it would be fun if one of them just turned out to show up in this part of the universe. I love a good murder mystery, and this book had me at the first murder in 500-ish years. And honestly, because this is taking place in a new setting in the DC Comics universe, I have absolutely no idea where exactly this is heading, but I can't wait to find out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.